Hey everybody, Kamikaze Avalanche here, and I wanted to go over a technique that I put together for how to create custom code that triggers off of specific words in a rich text label. So this one's going to be a little bit different because instead of the 5 steps, there's only 4 steps to this process. But I still wanted to bring it out and show it because I spent a good part of a day and a half trying to figure out how to get this done. Oh, and I see a typo there. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about the use case of how I'm using it in the game I'm just starting to develop. Now, in previous tutorials, you might have seen me with my last game, Level Up Everything, but I'm developing a new game, which is going to be a constructed deck battler. And so here's the battle scene as I'm developing it. And you can see here that the player plays cards. The enemy will play cards once I implement it, but as everything happens, every action is written to a log. Now, I want the player to be able to look at the log and click on the cards that are played and put in the discard pile and all of the cards that get played. I want them to be able to click on the card and have something happen. So if you pay attention to my output here, I went to the battle log and I clicked on the arcane shot and I had a print function. Now if I click on the axe throw, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to see the axe throw card. Now my intention in the future is I want to have a tutorial area over here so that the player can click on any of the cards in here and look back at the history and see the cards that were played or discarded, especially the cards that are played by the enemy AI. The player should basically know what their cards do, but when a player meets a new opponent for the first time, the new opponent will have custom cards, and I want them to be able to go back and look at it to plan for the next time that they fight this enemy. So in here, I have the cards that are played and drawn in blue text, and they are URLs. So that's kind of the use case we have going on here. So let's go and let's take a look at the back end of this code. The first thing to note is this battle log text here. Let me just click through so that we can see that it self-scrolls. Right? And then so it'll fill up during the combat. So when I look at this, it's a rich text label. My battle log is a rich text label and I have a script attached to it. So the way that I'm inserting things into the battle log is I have an event. I guess I did make this a 5-step process. Alright, I have an event that's called add to log and I have it sitting in an event bus. And the add to logs event, it requires a string to be placed in there. So from anywhere in the game, if they are in the battle, I can emit this signal and then it will add to the battle log. So the first thing it will do is it will move to a new line and then it's going to append the text to the bottom of the battle log. Alright, so that's how I'm actually creating the battle log. So the next thing I want to do is I want to connect it so that if somebody clicks on a URL code, I'm going to trigger a script. So in the ready function of this rich text label, I'm writing this code in here. self.metaclicked.connect, and then I'm connecting it to this function. So that's the second step, is we need to create a script for the battle log, and we need to connect meta-clicked to the function. Now the meta-clicked, it's going to pass along the URL value as a variant. So the next step, the third step, is to create the function using the same name that we connected to here. In it, we're going to have a value, and it's going to be a variant. And here's where we're going to use it. Now, in my example at this point, I'm just printing to the debug output the name of that card. However, the next step as I develop this is I'm going to create in the scene, I'll probably put an invisible space in this corner, and when they click on it, I'll call that function, provide the card name, and then so it will hover over and show the player the card of the name that they just clicked on. So I'm still piecing out in my mind how I want that to go, but I can take this string value and I can call other functions. And you probably will too, depending on the function that you want to have. All right, so that's the second step, where we've understood what we're trying to do. We've connected that URL code to a mouse click, which connects to a function. We've got the function in place to handle it. So let's take a look at how we're dynamically generating that BB code. So here, I can actually find where I'm emitting it, and just so you can see in here, I'm actually generating the string in advance because these strings are getting pretty complex. So to dynamically generate the code, I've got a translation of the player played a card, or the player drew a card. And so that's coming from my CSV file. If I open this in an external program, you're going to see that when the player played a card, it's going to say %s, which means it's going to take the first variable, and then it's going to write u, then %s again. And in this case, I'm using those two %s's to surround it with the color orange-red, because every time I want the player, I want it to be in orange-red. And when I type out enemy, I'm going to want that to be, I haven't decided yet whether it's going to be green or purple, but it's going to be color-coded when the player does something and when the enemy does something, because I want it to be crystal clear. So those first two %s are bracketing with the color code for that. And then the last one, so you drew or you played, and then another %s. So in here, this one's getting a little complicated. I have the BB code to set the color to Dodger blue. So that's my first BB code, is setting it to Dodger blue. And then I'm opening a URL, and then I'm cutting it off, and I'm using the plus function to add the name of the card. And then so that's going to be the name that we saw in that output, right? Arcane shot, or axe throw. I'm adding the closing bracket, and then I'm putting the translated name of the card. So the player might see the name of the card in whatever language that they're playing, French, German, Japanese, whatever, it doesn't matter. But that word or character is going to become clickable because it's bracketed by this URL. And then at the end of it, I'm closing off the URL and closing off the color. So if we go back to the scene, we can go in there. I'll click the defensive shot. We can take a look at what the battle log looks like. It's not going to show it in the remote because it's going to keep that as, it's going to be correct, but we can't actually see that in there. But going back to the game, that URL, it dynamically generated the URL, which is in turn going to allow us to use it in our code. So I hope you picked up something from this. I spent a day and a half researching how to get it done, and hopefully I saved you some time, or even better, I gave you an idea for how to improve your combat log to allow your players to interact with things or learn about the process. Maybe the URL opens up a tooltip or instructions for how to do something. All right, take care and have a good one, everyone.